Hello YouTube. Here's our video on why to never buy an old used backhoe. I'm just kidding. This thing has been, I wish the hour meter worked on it. I'd love to keep track of the hours that we're putting in, but for 2,500 bucks, this thing has been a blessing exponentially. It's really saved our backs on tons of things. Getting kind of spoiled on lifting any heavy object. We start firing up the backhoe and pulling it around to do all the heavy lifting anymore instead of breaking our back, which is a good thing. But we're doing, Jordan's replacing some broken grease zerks and putting some grease in while we're playing around here. Trying to dig out this stump here, and we blew a hose the other day, and I've got to run out to the Mennonite community where we pick up our hoses and buy some other things, so I figured I'd take that hose loose. But like everything, it never comes easy. Our wrench is spanned out and stripped, and I think we're going to end up having to cut this off with a hacksaw and get down in there with a good set of channel locks or something that'll bite down and not give up. We've tried vice grips and they're turning loose because this nipple's too wide. But anyhow, I thought I'd do a little quick video on tips on buying an old machine, and like anybody will tell you that's ever messed with this kind of stuff, don't do it if you can afford any otherwise, because there'll be lots of breakdowns, lots of heartache. But if you can get a good deal like we found, 2,500 bucks, you can't really make a down payment for that, so can't complain. If you're not afraid to do some maintenance and some work on your own, a used machine might not be too scary of a project. Oh yeah, here's our shop site. We're actually getting things cleared out up here to start building a shop here in the very near future, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to have all the tools set up, all the welder and everything we need to do some work and do some fabricating. But anyhow, tips on what to look for. Like a used car, you do the best you can, look it over the best you can, and try to find out the obvious things. Obviously, tires on the back are pretty expensive. These things run between probably 400 and 800 on up, depending on the size of the backhoe. But so you want to check that they're holding air, and they do hold air for a while. You can use an old tire for a long time if you're willing to work with it. We found out the hard way that you don't want to play with patching tubes. We've patched the tube on the other side once, and then we had trouble with the valve stem, pulled it apart, put it back together. So we ended up taking it off like 3 times. Finally broke down and spent the 70 bucks and bought a new tube, and in the last 2 months we've not had to air it up yet. So time is money. That's saved us a lot. We should have just saved the money ahead of time and saved up and got us a new tube and been done with it. But anyhow, check out the tires. Obviously how well it runs. If you start an old machine up, make sure you got it up to operating temperature. A lot of these old tractors with a hydrostatic transmissions or automatics, they'll work pretty good when they're cold, but once you get them warmed up, they may stop pulling altogether. The bushings and pins, if you operate the machine, obviously before you use it, you want to check to see if your bushings and pins are flopping loose. A good example of this is, I don't know if you can see down in here, but our hoe, the pins and bushings on it are just shot. It's set down on the, it's got its weight set down, but you can tell in here where there's a big space. You can almost stick almost 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, I guess. Big space in right there, big space there. Bushings are totally shot. So what's going to happen is you're going to get this thing out digging and swinging back and forth, and it's just going to flop all over the place and be hard to be precise. But again, if you're using an old machine and you're trying to make the best of what little money you got, you can make it work, and you can buy all those parts to repair. That's one thing I like about owning something. You can replace a hose or 2 or 3 here one at a time, and then when you get it all up to par, you got something to work with. Hydraulics. The hydraulics are a big thing on these type of machines. You want to check your cylinders and make sure when you're going up and down they're not leaking. We've still got, we had one of our subscribers send us a service manual for this. I actually got it in yesterday, and I think I'll be able to find the correct sizes. If not, I'll have to mic them and figure them out. But we still haven't rebuilt these, but these are leaking pretty good on our machine. And you can see where it's wet down in there, and obviously when you're running it you can tell that it's leaking a lot of fluid. Check all your coolants. Make sure your engine, when you're operating it and warming it up to temperature, make sure everything's not overheating, running good, how it ought to be. Just like an old car, you want to check the color of your fluids. Of course, on a diesel it's hard to get a nice clean oil color, but you can kind of look at it and see if it's full of, got any shavings or anything terrible that's really going to alert you and scare you away from buying it. If you're not scared to do some work on a machine, if you have to pay somebody, I don't know, it'd cost a mint to pay somebody every time we blew a hose or the hydraulic pump had trouble or something like that. If we had to pay for the mechanic work, it would definitely not even be a question of whether it was worth it to have an old machine, because you'd spend just a ton of time having somebody come out to the farm all the time and play with it. But even for amateur mechanics, there's a ton of stuff, like replacing hoses. There's nothing to be scared of on these hoses. You just turn one off and turn another one back on, and take them in and have them rebuilt. So there's a ton of things that are simplistic or simple things that you can do yourself and save a lot of money. I like the diesel engines. I enjoy working on them. We haven't done a whole bunch, and fortunately this one's not giving us any trouble. It runs pretty nice. That's old Perkins. In fact, we've been searching around for a backhoe, and we've been looking for machines with either the Cummins or the Perkins, like an old used machine, because I got the Cummins in our truck and it's just dynamite. You can't wear them out. And then this Perkins has really sold me on how well these things run, and it's pretty fuel efficient as well. But anyhow, that's a couple little tips on buying a backhoe. The other thing, check your hoses. You can look at a hose and tell, like this feed right here, you can tell that's going to blow out. All the outer coating is off of it. You can tell that on one, if you bend it a little bit, if it's got a bunch of checking and cracking. It's been out in the sun, it's pretty worn, pretty rough, but you can tell where they've been replaced. So you want to check those, because you can spend a lot of money on hoses on an old machine like this if you get one that all the hoses are shot on. But anyhow, that's what I'd look for. Check things that all your wear points, your pins, your bushings. Check your hoses, check your hydraulic stuff, make sure everything's moving efficiently up and down, in and out. Of course, run through your tractor, make sure it's shifting gears and going good in high and low and reverse and doing everything it ought to do, especially once it warms up. Check all that stuff out. And then your bucket, you want to make sure you got a good cutting edge. If you've got an edge on the front bucket, a lot of times these old machines will be pretty worn out. Another thing, you can check for old welds and cracks on any stress point. We've got some things here that we gotta touch up. But if you get a little welder, you can do all the repairs yourself, and there again save a ton of money. I'll show you a weld the boys were just showing me here, that we got a couple welds right in here that we gotta touch up. There's a little tiny weld down in there that needs to be taken care of. But that's our tips. Don't be totally scared of a used machine. Like I said, this thing is paid for itself 4 or 5 times over if we were renting a machine. No telling how much we've got out of it. We've hauled block, we've cleared for the house site, we've dug stumps, we've graded the driveway, hauled gravel for the driveway. Just there's no end to what you can do if you got a little machine like this. And even playing with it, even though it's small and it's not a brand new machine, you can't just fire it up and run 10 hours a day every day with it. You have to piddle with it sometimes and play with it, but definitely well worth the trouble. If you got the money, spend some more money and get something a little newer and nicer. That breakdown times will definitely hurt you if you're trying to accomplish a lot real quick and you've got a little extra money. Put a little extra money toward it and you can get for 5 to 8 grand, you can get a pretty decent used machine. I'm not saying ours isn't, but just a couple $1,000s more, you can get a lot more as far as upgraded, newer, better. Hoses will be in better shape. Everything's going to have less wear on it if you get something that's 10 or 20 years younger. So anyhow, that's our take on an old used machine. Like I said, I wouldn't be scared to buy one if you're not scared of doing some mechanic work, or even a good amount of mechanic work. But if you can make sure that the main thing, the drive system, is in good shape, the motor and transmission, everything's operating good, the hydraulics are a whole lot simpler and easier to play with and work on. But that's our video. Hopefully we'll have a video of the shop going up here before long. We're gonna start really making some headway hopefully here in the near future before it starts getting too cold for us. But like our video, subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, give us thumbs up, give us some comments, compliments, whatever you got for us, and have a good day.